Hello everybody and welcome to part 9 of What If Izuku Midoriya Had a Twin Sister. I hope you've been enjoying this series as we go into the forest training arc. If you are and want to show your support, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you aren't already. Let's say 50 likes for the next video. With all that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. After the whole incident at Island finished, and the student stay came to an end, they all returned to Japan, where they spent a couple more days of summer vacation enjoying themselves, even going to the pool together. Eventually, the time for a forest training camp arrived, and so the students headed to school, where they gathered while waiting to depart. As they waited, some students got excited, messing around to fill the time. Monoma spotted this and tried to start beef with 1A. Luckily, Kendo was there to stop him from blowing things too out of proportion. So, with him taken care of, Class 1B started boarding their bus, with 1A following suit.
Hey Uraraka, wanna change seats?
Himoto asked as the students were mounting the bus.
I wanna spend the trip with Tsu if I have the choice. Oh yeah, sure.
Uraraka answered, not realizing who that meant she'd be sitting next to. When the realization hit her, she got a bit flustered, but it was too late to go back, so after calming herself down, she sat next to Izuku. The two spent the whole trip talking with each other, getting to know each other even better. They talked about hopes, fears, and some of their hobbies. Anything as long as the conversation could go on. They were generally enjoying each other's company. An hour after they departed from UA, the students stopped for their first break in a mountainous area. It was a chance for them to stretch their legs and to take a pee break if they needed to. Once they got off the bus, it surprised the students that there were no structures around, and Class 1B was missing too. Two of the wild pussycats, Pixie Bob and Mandalay, then showed themselves to the students, informing them where the camp was located. Seeing that as a bad omen, the students started thinking about why they'd share the information. When the realization hit them, they started running towards the bus, but it was already too late, as Pixie Bob used her quirk, sending the students down into the mountain.
Good news! Since this is private land, you get to use your quirks as much as you want to! Yay! But you got 3 full hours. You should be able to make it to the facility by that time. That is, assuming you can make it through the beast forest.
Mandalay said after the students landed in the forest. Mineta, unable to hold his pee in any longer, ran into the forest at full throttle, looking for a place to evacuate. Unlucky for him, a beast appeared out of nowhere, attacking him. Not wanting to let harm befall his classmate, Izuku jumped in the fray, taking Mineta out of harm's way just before Bakugo, Ida, Himoto, and Todoroki took the beast down. Knowing the grueling trip that laid ahead of them, the students set out, fighting off every monster they came across on the way. At 5:20 p.m., after 7 gruesome hours of travel, the students arrived at the training camp, exhausted, finding everyone else already there. Needless to say, they hadn't made it in time for lunch, but they still showed a lot of promise. Pixie Bob took note of 5 specific students and started pestering them. Izuku spotted a little boy standing in the corner alone. After inquiring about him, he went over to greet him, only to be punched in the scrotum by Koda.
Hey, are you okay? That must have hurt.
Himoto said, coming to his side. You fiendish child! Such a low blow is unforgivable! Ida expressed, causing Koda to express his discontent. The students then unloaded their belongings, taking them to their rooms. After, they went to the cafeteria where they enjoyed the delicious meal, stuffing their faces until they couldn't swallow another bite. After they finished eating dinner, they had a nice, relaxing bath ahead of them. As everyone got into the bath and started enjoying the pleasant experience, Mineta took a stance, analyzing a wall. He gave a speech about wanting to peek on the girl's side and began scaling the wall. "Oh no you don't!" Izuku screamed, full cowling and rushing over to Mineta, grabbing onto his foot to stop him from continuing. "You're not peeking on my sister!" But Mineta wouldn't let himself be stopped. He stomped on Midoriya's face so hard that Izuku was forced to let go. Taking advantage of that one moment, Mineta continued at full throttle, scaling the wall before Izuku could recuperate. Once he reached the wall's summit, his dreams were denied, as Kota was there to stop him. He had flown too close to the sun that his wings melted off, sending him tumbling to the ground. The girls then thanked Kota for saving them, causing him to tumble over, losing consciousness as he fell. Lucky for him, Izuku regained his composure, catching Kota before he could hit the floor. Wanting to make sure the boy would be alright, Izuku took him over to the infirmary, where Manderley took a look at him, deeming him to be fine. Izuku was curious why Kota seemed to oppose heroes so much, so he asked about it, with Manderley telling Izuku about what happened to his parents. Thinking over the boy's situation, Izuku returned to the hot springs to finish his bath. He and his class then got ready for bed and went to sleep, having quite the day ahead of them. The next day, their training began in earnest. The students were forced up at 5 a.m. and taken to a clearing where Aizawa explained the objective of the training camp. Then, to get a proper demonstration, he handed a softball to Bakugo, telling him to throw it. The boy was excited to show his progress, so he grabbed the ball, throwing it as far as he could. Knowing how much they had been through over the past few months, the class expected it to be a vast improvement. But when the results came in, it turned out he had only thrown the ball 4.4 meters further than before, surprising the whole class. You've had a single semester at UA. Due to your various experiences, all of you have definitely improved. But those improvements have mostly been limited to mental prowess and technical skill, with a slight increase in stamina thrown in along the way. Aizawa explained, telling the students why the improvement wasn't as drastic as they expected. As you can see, your quirks themselves have not improved much on a fundamental level. That's why we're now going to focus on improving your power. This'll be so hard you'll feel like you're dying. So stay alive. With those words, the class quickly got to work, with 1B joining in the training later on. Everyone had a lot to improve on, so Aizawa talked to them, figuring out what the best course of action would be for each student. Toroki was placed on a kettle of boiling water, forced to alternate his ice and fire to accustom his body to the rapid changes in temperature. Bakugo was placing his hands into boiling water as well, and unleashing massive explosions in order to increase his capacity. Mineta was pulling out ball after ball, trying to increase the amount he could pull without hurting himself. Himoto was forced to overproduce flames, keeping them and moving them around. This was to increase the amount of fire she could breathe and decrease the strain from controlling the flames. But that's not where it stopped. She was being careful with how she dissipated the flames, doing it on a level so that civilians wouldn't be hurt if she were ever to do it on a large scale. Izuku, on the other hand, was forced to do some basic muscle training, although he used the experience to push himself further, testing out the waters on how much he could push one for all without hurting himself. By the end, he was even creating small gusts of wind. At 4 p.m., just as one type of training ended, another one began, as the students now had to learn how to prepare a meal for themselves. Many of them struggled, but using their quirks in conjunction, they managed to make quite a tasty meal. As he was taking his plate to a seat, Izuku noticed that Kota was leaving, so, a while later, Izuku followed behind his footsteps, finding him and talking with the boy. Sensing Kota's hostility towards him, Izuku set down the food and returned to camp after telling him his story. That night, unbeknownst to the heroes, some villains gathered close by, preparing themselves for the soon-to-come raid on the camp. That was not the only unexpected development to happen that night, as in the male dorms, Izuku started moving around frantically, accidentally activating his quirk. He was having a strange dream. Beside him were 7 people, and in front of him, 2 men he did not recognize. One seemed weak and sickly, while the other was well composed and had a fancy suit. At first, Izuku didn't really get the whole picture, but as the dream went on, he started remembering what All Might had told him about the beginnings of One for All. Firsthand, he saw the history that society had swept under the rug, witnessing how the symbol of evil gave birth to One for All. "You must be the 9th. the sickly man stated once the dream started fading away. I wanted to show you more, but you're only at 25%. We've already passed the point of singularity, but don't fear. You're not alone, the first user managed to say before the dream vanished away. When Izuku opened his eyes, he found himself restrained by Aizawa's binding scarf, with many of his classmates holding him down too. What happened? What's going on? He asked, not knowing what he had done to be in the state. Are you serious? Bakugo asked, scoffing. We should be the ones asking you that. You were moving all over the place. It took us a while to restrain you. We even had to call Aizawa, Tokoyami explained. I'm going to bed, Kamiari stated, exhausted after the remedial classes. Yeah, me too, Kirishima added, also tired. What's going on, Midoriya? Aizawa asked, concerned about what had just happened to his student. I don't really know, Izuku said, looking at his trembling hand. I just had this bizarre dream, and when I woke up, this happened. Well, nightmares can do that to you. Still, be sure to get some rest. You have a lot of training ahead of you tomorrow, Aizawa said, leaving the room. The next day, training was just as gruesome as it had been the last. Most students had the same regime, but Izuku's was changed slightly. Aizawa felt that what happened in the evening was a sign that Izuku was overexerting himself too much. So, he relaxed the conditions for the freckled boy slightly. He was still pushing himself extensively with the higher percentages and muscle training, but he was also practicing some Air Force smashes as he went along.
So, how's your little wind attack going?
Himoto asked, taking a break, her voice sounding very croaky. I'm getting better, and now I can reliably create the air pressure, but having it go in the right direction is not really that easy. Aiming it properly is pretty hard too, Izuku answered.
Maybe you could get a support item to help you out with that,
Himoto said. That could work, Izuku pondered, thinking the idea over. Melissa had said he could use some upgrades, so this might be the chance to get that in order. Hey you two, no slacking off, Aizawa scolded, getting them to focus back on their training. Izuku took the chance to question if other teachers like All Might were going to be coming as well, to which Aizawa answered they wouldn't, since more people coming would attract too much attention. A while later, Pixie Bob informed the students that they'd be performing a test of courage in the evening, exciting all of them. Like the day before, once the physical training ended, the students started preparing their dinner, a chance which Izuku took to talk to Todoroki and Himoto about stuff that was on his mind. After everyone prepared and ate dinner, it was time for the trial of courage. All those who were attending the remedial course sadly couldn't participate, as they hadn't impressed Aizawa enough. The details of the game were then explained to the students, and they were all placed into teams. The first team to take a go would be Bakugo and Todoroki, then Tokoyami and Shoji, with Himoto and Hagakure coming after. After them it was Yaoyorozu and Aoyama, then Uraraka and Tsuyu, then Ojiro and Mineta, then Idanjiro, and lastly Izuku, who unfortunately ended up on his own since they were odd numbers. 12 minutes after the game began, the fifth group went into the woods, only to have a deranged blonde killer jump out at them and attack, wanting to steal their blood. At the same time, all throughout camp, villains started popping up, attacking in different ways. Somewhere in the woods, a gas appeared, knocking some of the members of Class 1B out while a massive fire was created in the woods. While in the clearing where they began, two villains appeared, taking care of Pixie Bob right off the bat. Wanting to protect the students, Tiger and Mandalay sent the students away, telling them to return to the main building. But Mandalay, I know where Koda is! Izuku announced before he could leave, leading Mandalay to tell him to get the boy to safety. Having been granted permission, Izuku activated One for All, heading to Koda's secret hiding place at the foot of the mountain. When the attack started, Koda was just sitting down looking at the sky, admiring the stars, when a hooded man wearing a strange mask showed up. He asked for Koda's hat, thinking it looked better than what he had on, but Koda got frightened, trying to run away. Unfortunately for the boy, the man was much stronger and faster than him. He quickly zoomed in front of Koda, smashing at him. For an instant, Koda got a glimpse of the killer's face, recognizing him as Muscular, the villain who killed his parents. The villain was seconds away from killing the boy, but luckily, Izuku showed up, smashing the man with a kick and grabbing Koda, getting some distance from the villain. Now you were on the list. Got a nice kick in ya too. This is gonna be fun, Muscular said, smiling to himself. This was someone he was allowed to kill after all. Don't worry, Koda. It's gonna be okay. I'm gonna save you, Izuku said to the boy, setting him down and getting into a fighting position. Ha! Of course a would-be hero would say that. So cheesy. You guys are always spouting off about justice, Muscular said, building up muscle mass. He tore his cloak away, rushing at Izuku. Izuku misjudged his opponent's speed, only giving him enough time to block the blow. It was so powerful it sent him crashing against the mountain, shattering his phone in the process, so he wouldn't be able to call for help anytime soon. Before Izuku could recuperate, Muscular jumped at him, asking him where he could find Bakugo while attacking. Izuku managed to increase his output to 15%, jumping out of the way just in time. He pivoted off the mountain, smashing down on his opponent, sending him tumbling back. Izuku then rushed at him again, but his enemy once again increased his muscle mass. With that came an increase in velocity, which allowed him to beat the green-haired boy in terms of speed. He intercepted him, kicking him away. Izuku got back up, reactivating his quirk after losing concentration. He stared down the villain while blood dripped down his face. This is gonna be fun. Show me your blood, the villain jokingly said, waiting for the hero's next move. Izuku increased his output again, shooting smashes out into the air, sending the air punches at Muscular. Some missed, but most managed to hit his target. Huh, tickles, Muscular commented, tanking the small air attacks. What are you hoping to accomplish with such flimsy moves? Getting frustrated with what his opponent had said, Izuku rushed at him, trying to take him down with 10% smashes. If you're not gonna take this seriously, then I'm just gonna end you two. Starting with the kid, Muscular taunted, angering Izuku further. The boy charged up his power, rushing over at his opponent. If I can do it from a distance, I can try it up close, Izuku said to himself as he got close to Muscular with a punch ready. Excitedly, Muscular prepared his own, wanting to clash with the hero, but Izuku ducked under the punch, jumping with an uppercut, increasing his output to 25% the moment before making impact. With Muscular off balance, Izuku stacked more attacks on top, spinning around and delivering a kick to the head. He then landed on the ground, rushing at Muscular, hitting him twice more. His opponent was sent back by the attack, hitting the wall again and falling down. You're really stepping up your game, but that's still way too weak, Muscular said, rushing at Izuku, punching him in the arm. He then attacked again, delivering blow after blow, leaving Izuku pretty beaten. He's not going down, Izuku let out, surprised. Nothing he was doing seemed to have any effect on the villain. I'm gonna have to do it. He rushed at Muscular at 10%, jumping into the air, spinning around and delivering a full-powered smash to Muscular's chest. 100% Detroit Smash! He shouted as he delivered the blow, sending Muscular flying further into a crater in the wall. The immense air pressure and power sending Koda flying away. Not wanting to see the kid get hurt, Izuku rushed after him, grabbing onto him right before he fell out of the mountain. Just in time, he said as he let out a sigh of relief, pulling Koda back up to the surface he was standing on, trying to not hurt his broken arm in the process. Now come on, we have to get back to... Izuku started. Nice. That was an adorable attempt, but now I'm done playing. Muscular said, the amusement gone from his voice as he got back up. His body seemed to have grown more than before. He rushed at Izuku and Koda, ready to kill them. Not having enough time to get both of them out of the way, Izuku pushed Koda away, jumping back at the same time. Muscular missed his blow, hitting the ground and breaking it apart. Izuku then rushed at him to deliver another blow. Muscular used the opportunity, tangling Midoriya's damaged arm he was using as a fake-out up inside his muscles. You're mine now, so let me hear you scream, Muscular said, smashing at the green-haired boy repeatedly, hitting him all over. He eventually aimed for Izuku's broken arm, trying to tear it apart. But Izuku maneuvered along with the punch, managing to free himself from his opponent's muscles. I have to stop him, Midoriya thought, panicking, trying to come up with a way to stop the rampaging brutes. Whatever I do, I have to stop him here and now. Muscular again came charging at Izuku at high speeds. Izuku barely managed to react, but he dodged, moving to counter with a full-powered smash. Reacting to his will, the energy in his body began swirling, manifesting his dark tendrils that shot out of his hand, hitting Muscular against the mountain. Izuku looked at his hand flabbergasted, wondering what the hell was happening as Muscular started escaping. But then, the energy started going out of control. They flapped around, sending Izuku flying around while also smashing Muscular over and over, sending him all over the place along with Izuku. A pained expression formed on Izuku's face as he struggled to contain this new power that had suddenly manifested. It was going all over the place, tearing the mountain apart, almost hitting Koda, but the boy managed to jump out of the way in time. Izuku struggled as the black whips that were coming out of his body smashed at Muscular, slowly wearing down his stamina and muscle power. He had been tangled up, so there was no way he was escaping now. You can do it, Deku! Kota screamed in support of his protector. Hearing those words, Izuku gathered all his strength, focusing all of his might to get the quirk under control. Calm down, one for all. Calm down. The villain's defeated, Izuku said in his head, trying to get his quirk to go away, but didn't relent. Instead, the direction it was going in changed as the whip started heading towards camp. Stop! He screamed from the top of his lungs, the quirk finally vanishing. Unfortunately, the quirk left him floating in the air, causing him to fall to the ground. Are you okay? Kota asked, running to his hero's side. I'm fine. Now come on. We have to get back to the other. Izuku said, walking over to Kota, the pain, exhaustion, and injuries catching up to him. He wanted to go help his friends, to let everyone know what the villains were after, but his body wouldn't allow it. Instead, he fell to the ground, passing out from the exhaustion. While Izuku fought Muscular, in a different part of the forest, Himoto was facing Dark Shadow, running away along with Hagakure, trying to gain enough distance to try and subdue the rampaging beast. Shoji and Tokoyami had been the first to encounter a villain by the name of Moonfish. When they came across him, he attacked, hurting Shoji. He got one of his duplicate arms that he was using to survey the area. Seeing the blood dripping from his close friend, anger invaded Tokoyami, which he sadly couldn't regulate, causing him to lose control and go on a rampage. At first, everything seemed fine as the rampaging beast had its sights set on Moonfish. Both raged into battle with Dark Shadow quickly overwhelming the villain. But that was when things started going wrong. With the villain defeated, Dark Shadow no longer had an enemy to focus on, but he did have an overwhelming rage that he had to release. He started attacking any small sound he heard, destroying many trees in search of a new target. Luckily, Shoji managed to get away quite quickly, keeping quiet until the rampaging beast left. The quirk rampaged on until it came across others to fight, that being the group that was right behind Tokoyami and Shoji, Hagakure and Himoto. As soon as it spotted them, it started rampaging towards the two, trying to tear them to shreds. The two girls were forced on the run, going as fast as they could to get away. But, even going as fast as their legs would allow them, Dark Shadow followed right behind them, not letting them get away. Himoto remembered seeing a great wall of flames in the distance, and knowing that Tokoyami's weakness was fire, since he had explained it properly during the final exams, she guided him in the direction of the blue fire. The green-haired girl hoped that the light would slow Dark Shadow long enough for her to create her own flames to subdue it.
Come on! We just need a proper distraction!
Himoto said to Hagakure as she ran, but the girl wasn't there anymore. Himoto couldn't generate fire properly while running, or else she'd risk suffocating. So, while wondering where her companion had gone, she just kept going as fast as she could. Good thing I'm here then, Shoji said, appearing out of seemingly nowhere, using his duplicate arms to distract Dark Shadow for a moment.
Right what the doctor ordered.
Himoto said, breathing in as much as she could, unleashing a gigantic wall of fire, bigger than she'd ever done before.
Wow! That training really paid off,
she thought after witnessing her own firepower. Seeing the wall of fire come out, Dark Shadow took a step back, trying to run away from it. But the flame moved in his way, swirling around him until he calmed down, disappearing back into Tokoyami. Thank you, he said as he fell to the ground, tired from trying to fight back against his quirk.
No prob, anytime,
Himoto said. With the job done, she released the flame's energy into the air, the fire vanishing as a result. With Dark Shadow subdued, the four students started talking about what course of action to take. Himoto wanted to keep on fighting to help out against the other villains, but her classmate mentioned what Mandalay had said before, convincing her to do otherwise. So, the students headed back to camp where they'd be safe. On the way, they ran into Bakugo and Todoroki, who had previously come across one of the Nomu. They had managed to beat him up, with it turning into mush towards the end of their fight. Todoroki was carrying Tsubaraba on his back, a member of Class 1B who had been knocked unconscious by the Nomu, so they were taking him to safety. Knowing that having higher numbers would be better for them if they encountered any villains, the students continued on their path. This sucks. We should be going after the other villains, not running back to camp with our damn tails between our legs, Bakugo commented, annoyed at the actions they had to take.
Come on, explosion boy. Don't be a sore loser. We might run into one or two villains we could beat up on the way,
Himoto noted, expecting an excited or at least annoyed response from the spiky blonde boy, but instead, there was just silence. Seeing that as uncharacteristic, Himoto turned around asking,
What's the problem, Kat-chan? Cat got your tongue?
But when she looked at where he had been a few seconds ago, he was gone.
Where did he go?
Tokoyami's gone too, Todoroki noted, surprised that he had disappeared from under them.
Wait a minute, where did they go?
Himoto questioned, looking around frantically, trying to find their friends. Why, they're right here in my hands, of course, a mysterious man wearing a strange mask and yellow coat stated, revealing himself to the students, bringing attention to the two marbles in his hand. Knowing that his quirk probably allowed him to trap people or objects, Todoroki shot an ice attack at him, trying to freeze him in place, but the villain jumped out of the way. The students tried attacking him to retrieve their friends, but the man just kept mocking them, jumping out of the way before the attacks could reach him. There was only one moment when Compress was caught off guard, that being when Tsuyu and Uraraka showed up from out of the woodwork. Tsuyu shot her tongue out at him, grabbing onto his arm. She didn't really understand the situation, but knew they were fighting him, so she gave a helping hand. Hagakure then showed up from behind him, having shed her clothes to hide better. She kicked the man in the face, causing his mask to fall off and his hand to go limp. With the marvels released, Hagakure quickly grabbed onto them, retreating. The villain then regained his composure, grabbing his cane and hitting Tsuyu in the tongue with it, causing her to let go of him. Free from her grip, he jumped away. That was close, the villain stated. It seems that my audience has grown far bigger than I can handle, so I'll be taking my leave now, he eloquently announced.
Yeah, just run with your tail in your legs. You aren't getting our friends,
Himoto shouted, mocking the villain for his failure. Oh, aren't I? The man said, grabbing 2 marbles from his mouth, showing them to the students.
What?
Himoto let out, looking back to the marbles that Hagakure had retrieved, only to see them being turned into clumps of ice. The first part of magic is misdirection, my girl, and you have fallen for a simple sleight of hand, the man said, bowing. He then retreated, bouncing around the trees. The students chased after him for a while, but the enemy was too fast and they were too injured, so they ended up losing track of him, changing their course and heading back after a while. Compress headed to the rendezvous area, where after a while, most of his compatriots returned. The time for the curtain to close on their mission came, so having dealt a massive blow to UA and Hero Society as a whole, they retreated, their 2 hostages in hand. Lucky for the heroes, the day had ended without any casualties, but one thing was for sure, they had to get their friends back. You've reached the end of the video, so please drop a like if you haven't already and subscribe. 50 likes and the next video will come out. Leave a comment telling me what you think will happen or how the story will progress from here, as next we have the battle between All Might and All For One. Do you think that will go the same as in canon, or what are your opinions on it? I personally already know what I'm going to do, but I want to see what you guys think will happen. Also, how are you enjoying the students' development? Please let me know. Until next time everyone, have an absolutely fantastic day. Bye!